the boys are back in town.
Why do you think that Coldplay thing grabbed everyone's attention so much?
No, whereas if that had been a Muslim man with his 9-year-old bride, they would have gone like, okay, isn't that wonderful? Let's celebrate cultural diversity. So there's been a 5-fold increase in terrorism since 9/11, according to the Global Terrorism Index, and 5 groups are primarily responsible for this, and all of them are Mormon. No, excuse me.
Sorry.
They're all Muslim. They're all Islamic.
Well, first of all, Obama's face looks like he spent his life lying. So,
And having
maybe allegedly. Sorry, please don't sue me, Barack, or Barry, whatever you used to call yourself. Now, do you want to explain why you cancelled me from your life before we get going?
Welcome to another episode of WTF, World of Taunt and Fox. And we have been away for a very, very long time on sabbatical. And now the boys are back in town.
It is indeed. I think we can legitimately call this series 2. I think we can. Now, do you want to explain why you cancelled me from your life before we get going?
I canceled you?
Yeah, you decided to be a grandfather again.
Well, the Taunton household has been extremely busy. All good things in recent months, as I have mentioned before. My mother's had a stroke. That's not a good thing, but she's been doing very well. She is very much on the upswing. And she now lives with us, and we're in the process of, creating a nice little home on this property for her. So that's kept me very busy. And then my youngest son, he and his wife had their first child, a grandson. And as I was just telling our lovely producer, Lacey, I'm impatient for him to get old enough for me to take him to ball games, to take him hunting, to talk with him about manly things, the dangers of Islam, the importance of free speech, all of these kinds of things. I'm looking forward to that. And then unfortunately, I because of the birth of this child, I missed your wedding. Why don't you tell us about the wedding?
Yeah, why don't we tell you about you missing the wedding? So let's start at the right place, shall we? Hey, Larry, I'd be honored if Lizzie and I would be honored if you would give a reading at our wedding. And, we value you so much, and our spiritual relationship and our personal relationship so much. Would you give a reading at the wedding and be an important part of that special day, and maybe come and spend some time with us beforehand and all that? Yes, no problem. My son is giving birth. His wife is giving birth to honor about the day, but I don't see a problem. And I'm like, I do.
This is such a gross mischaracterization, but you keep going.
I see a problem with that. So Larry's like, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And I'll get there. Anyway, baby didn't arrive until 2 days after?
4 days after.
4 days after. So your reading slot and pastoral care slot was taken by a lovely friend of ours called Jules, who really, he read, it's Corinthians, isn't it? Is it Corinthians?
Yes, 1 Corinthians 13. The love chapter is what I had selected to read at your wedding. But it sounds like this guy had like a James Earl Jones kind of presence and presentation. So maybe it was an upgrade.
Well, I tell you what, I've never seen someone take something so seriously in my life. He wasn't doing he doesn't maybe possess your natural performing talent and, standing on stage talent. So he just really spelled it out for the congregation. But it was an amazing, magical, wonderful day. And
what version did he read from? Do you know what version of the Bible?
The version you sent over and Lizzie printed. So
very good.
Would that have been New International?
I think it was the NIV that I chose because it preserves some of the beauty of the older language, and yet it's it's not stilted, and so the audience can hear that very well. But I do want to say this in my defense. I had said all along, I don't know if I'll be able to make it because I have to be here for the birth of this child. But something that I want to remind people here, if you've never had children, babies don't care about your schedule. They don't care. They're so impolite. This child was scheduled to arrive on June 30th. Your wedding was July 4th, and this baby just said, "No, I'm not coming. I'm not coming." And
Well,
even
again,
on
I
the
think
eighth day had to be induced.
you're missing out, and again, a crucial piece of of circumstantial evidence, which is that, as far as I can glean, the pediatrician or the obstetrician or whatever it is that does the baby thing probably had some July 4th plans of his own.
I think that's absolutely true.
And you know, again, you're just missing convenient piece of information that make it look like you were there, desperate to come and see us, but actually you
But
were.
I wanted to
I
be there.
know.
But the pictures looked amazing. What kind of old car was that in the photos?
It's a car belonging to a friend of ours, and it's apparently they started making them in 1938, just before the far right extremist, who turns out to be a far left extremist, Adolf Hitler, decided to kill everyone, and so they only made about 4, and they're worth 1.2 million pounds each.
Did you drive it, or did you two get in the back and somebody else drive it?
Well, what I did halfway through the wedding, because you know I'm a creature of habit, was I got her to drive me to the pub to go and have a pint with the locals, because it was interesting. I proposed to Lizzie last year on July the 4th, and we moved here on July the 11th, and we've become really good friends with some people here, and you know, we obviously we didn't invite them, so we'd said to a few, you know, would you come after lunch, you know, and they did, and we went to try and pick them up in the Bentley, and that was quite fun. So we just went to the pub in the 1.2 million pound Bentley, and
shift on the column or on the floor?
Shift what, gear stick?
Yeah.
I think it was on the right-hand side. I wasn't paying that much attention. I'd moved on to water by this point because it was so hot, and also I have a terrible. It's almost an allergy to champagne, and we'd gone and bought this lovely champagne, so I felt like I had to drink it. No, but I mean it. It makes me feel really, really unwell afterwards. The next day, I feel happy as anything when I'm drinking it. And you know me, I don't mind drinking. It's something I would put up there as a hobby. I moved on to water, and we got a beautiful band. The guy that used to play with me when I was doing music on a touring music has started up a bands for weddings, but the highest end bands for weddings, and it was that they sung. I would have watched that band all night. They were
Was it Coldplay? Brilliant. Was it Coldplay? Was that event where the hugging event and the camera, you know, catching the couple?
Why do you think that? What
was that at your wedding?
It wasn't. But why do you think that Coldplay thing got so much? Why do you think that grabbed everyone's attention so much?
There's a little bit of a news lull, and I think their reaction. I think if they had just kept, you know, hugging and gone along with it, the camera would have moved on to other people. There'd have been no story. But her reaction, him turning and then falling to the ground, it just, you know, everyone knew, well, what's up with this couple? And it led to people doing a little online research and realizing who they were. The guy's a billionaire, apparently. And that was I think that's the reason. How about you?
Well, I don't know, but we live in a world where, you know, you can proudly walk down the road as a trans woman, and Joe Biden can invite trans people to their White House and they can get their trans boobs out. And that's not a story at all. And yet
Yeah.
a straight guy having an affair with a straight woman, both in middle age, which is about the most common thing ever,
Yeah.
suddenly becomes an internet phenomenon. I wonder whether it's a harking back to the idea of a good old-fashioned infidelity. Instead of insane turbocharged woke infidelity, which is like, yeah, you can have a throuple, you can have polyamory, you can do it all. Your girlfriend lives there, your boyfriend, husband, and sister live in that house, and you all get together for a nice old mishmash. Whether it was a harking back, whether it was the world saying, this happens, and we are morally indignant about it. I wonder
Yeah.
whether it's a sign of a switching social, stigma, not a switching social stigma, but a return to a normal social stigma, which is like, busted. It seemed to have had something to it that I can't quite put my finger on.
I wonder if it has to do with shame. I mean, think about it for a moment, because we still have situations where, let's say, a politician is caught with a stripper, let's say, or a situation like what happened at the Coldplay concert, very heterosexual, fairly mundane type things, but because people responded to them with shame, then there's a piling on. What you're talking about happening at the White House and just about everywhere across the Western world, there's no shame. These people are utterly shameless. They have no conscience about having, queen story hour with adolescent children and all of these kinds of things. There's no shame attached to it. And because they themselves attach no shame to it. And because of that, there's very little space for anywhere to go with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But does that signify a return to the acknowledgement of shame? Because the people who seem to be shaming were normal people. It wasn't you weren't getting leftist shame, because you would have expected that to be a known goal for the leftists. It's like, what? A heterosexual man is having an affair with a heterosexual woman, and there are no
and she's not a child.
there are no trans children involved. Yeah. What's going wrong here?
No, whereas if that had been a Muslim man with his 9-year-old bride, they would have gone like, okay, isn't that wonderful? Let's celebrate cultural diversity. I just want to point this out to the WTF fan base. It took us all of, let me see here, 11 minutes to cancel ourselves.
They kill the YouTube. Literally, YouTube kills us after our conversations, because, I think I'm naughty, but you just go, okay, so maybe I'll take it to another level. Okay, let's do that. And you do. So there's also, let's talk about property prices. Some bastard has decided to occupy a place on the lake near where you should have been shot if the people I paid had done their job properly. What's it like now that you're living on one of Alabama's most famous lakes?
It's interesting because I seem to be attracting people. I just can't help it. And people want to be near me, Lawrence. They want to be somewhere, in my aura and some in proximity to me. Of course, I jest, but, Southerners are famous for preferring their lakes to their beaches. Southerners love their lakes, and we're blessed in the American South with loads of lakes, and they've always been a very, very popular destination to build homes. But I also think it's reflective of a trend where people are, since COVID in particular, people are increasingly working from home. I know there's been some move back to the office, but still more and more people are, they can live a more transient lifestyle. And I also think that people are eager to move away from the cities. So we're seeing an awful lot of this. And I just tweeted this before the show, that there is a type of migrant, a new type of migrant that I want deported. and they are blue staters who are
Yeah.
fleeing blue states and coming to red states, but bringing with them their blue state political mentality that caused their home state to become a hellhole in the first place. Meaning, I'm more than happy to see conservatives, to see people who are sensible, who know what a man is, who know what a woman is, who have good sense to come to my state to live. Happy to have such people. I'm not interested in these people who they seem unable to make a connection between their own political views and what it was that made their state an awful place that they had to leave in the first place. And we're seeing a lot of that. People who are moving to our lakes, to our cities, to our beaches from New York, from New Jersey, from California, Oregon, Washington, flooding into the American South, which I find interesting. And many of them, by the way, know very well what it is that they're fleeing, and they're quite sensible people. But there are many of them who they just don't get it. And I don't want their politics here. I don't want those people here. Make the deportation canon great again.
I always go back to my favorite Victor Davis Hanson, who I just adore, and he always goes, these places have become ossified and calcified, and the left cannot deal with the consequences of their own ridiculous ideology, so they spread it everywhere. And that's what's happened, isn't it? They run because they go like, I'm going to get stabbed outside my place in LA. So I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to start I mean, I've been speaking to Naomi Wolf and her husband Brian, and he's like got the same problem. There's a load of blue staters coming into a red area, and they're like citing people for having 27 chickens when you can have 25. And it's just like, guys, leave it out. Seriously, we live here because we don't want your stupid rules and your stupid what they call it, curtain twitching into our lives. So America, England now, I would say. Oh, first and foremost, can we just say that my amazing wife is now. I know that the British dog shit media like to call her a conspiracy theorist, but they can now call her a conspiracy theorist LLB ons, because she's now got one of the top 5 hardest degrees on earth. She is just qualified in, and she is now my attorney, as they used to say in the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Speak to my attorney. So she is now fully qualified in law, which is it happened this morning, which is just amazing. So God bless her, and God bless all
Let me
those.
text her right now and congratulate her.
It kind of ruins the show. You just texting her halfway through the show.
You know, it's on my mind. Let's do it.
Well, I mean, maybe you could like save it and talk about something else. Have you converted to Islam yet?
You thought I wasn't listening to you, didn't you? I just texted her, and you were just copied on the text. Lizzie, let me say this about our wives, and I can now say our wives, not my wife in your endless fiance. Lizzie and Lori are both very sensible women. They are very measured. They are anchors to both of us. They are less reactionary than either of us.
Just a bit.
And they're good people to come behind us and smooth over the feathers.
All of the bombs that we left behind us that we didn't bother to like deprogram. I'll come back.
It's very funny in my life, both in my family and with friends and so forth. But frequently when there's sometimes a question or something somebody needs, I know that they see Lori as the soft target, because they go for her rather than coming for me and asking me, the same question. I'm deemed to be, kind of the heavy artillery, but Lizzie has a very softening effect on you. She's hardly a controversial person. If I hear somebody doesn't like Lizzie, I think, okay, well, if they don't like Lawrence, I'm like, well, it could be Lawrence's fault, but Lizzie, no. Lori, no. So that's the way it goes. Islam is a disgusting religion, and
we've got to call it.
And many Muslims know this, and it's why they don't want to read the Quran or the Hadith, because they don't want to feel guilty and feel like they're bad Muslims. And just to be clear to those who are listening to us, we're not saying that every Muslim is a terrorist or would-be terrorist or pedophile. We're saying that there is a disproportionately high number of all of those things among Muslims. There's been a 5-fold increase in terrorism since 9/11, according to the Global Terrorism Index, and 5 groups are primarily responsible for this, and all of them are Mormon. No, excuse me. Sorry. They're all Muslim. They're all Islamic, and that's just the nature of that religion.
I think we've got to, sorry to interrupt you, but I really think this is important. In England, I just argued with Calvin about this, because Calvin is saying it's 4% in the UK is Pakistani Muslim. They commit 64% of the sexual offences. It's a problem. His view is deport all of them. And I say no, because there's going to be, within that community, a lot of people that don't read the Quran, don't follow the satanic.
I'm with Calvin.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling you would be.
Well, for this reason, you cannot have in your midst people who cannot adhere to your constitutional values. So in our case, I don't know what.
But we don't have a constitutional values. We don't have a constitution.
As it applies to the United States, to become a naturalized citizen, your oath says that you will uphold the Constitution, that you'll adhere to the laws of the land, and our Constitution is rooted in a Judeo-Christian worldview. And no Muslim can take such an oath and not renounce their Islamic beliefs, because they are in conflict with one another. They're utterly in conflict with one another. Thus, when we say that Islam is compatible with the West, and specifically with the United States, I mean quite literally. They can be nice people. They can assimilate. But if at the end of the day they remain Muslims, they cannot by definition take an oath like that to become an American citizen. I don't want them. You have to fundamentally accept our worldview and who we are, or get out of here.
Yeah, but Calvin would disagree with you on that as well. So he would say that the whole idea of Judeo-Christian is bullshit.
No, it isn't.
Well, hang on.
No, it isn't.
No. But just let me offer up the point. He would say that's bullshit, because what you do by including Judeo, whatever that means, I don't even know what that means. So I know what Christian means. I don't know what Judeo means. Jewish Christian, I would understand, but Judeo, no idea. And then they've started to say in England, we live in a multicultural society, a Judeo-Christian Muslim society, and they say it, and it kind of flies off the tongue. But what is actually very unique to the West is the fact that we do not hate the individual in the same way as, love the sinner, hate the sin. We don't turn around and go, just because you're a Muslim, we hate you, but we can hate your belief structure.
They're Klingons. They're Klingons. They're orcs that are in the Shire. I don't want them.
I mean, the YouTube channel is over now, so might as well keep going. Thanks, Larry.
Listen, Judeo-Christian simply means this. Both Christians, unless you're a Marcionite, who just completely rejects the Old Testament, both Christians and Jews acknowledge the Old Testament. Now, Jews do not acknowledge the New Testament, but both Christians and Jews acknowledge the Old Testament. So when we're talking about Judeo-Christian values, we're talking about the Decalogue. We're talking about the 10 Commandments. And the West is predicated on those Judeo-Christian values, the 10 Commandments, Exodus 20. That is what we're talking about. Those laws serve as a basis for the West as we know it. So that's what we mean. And there's a reason why that they would be, depicted in our Supreme Court, and that why they're depicted throughout American jurisprudence, Western jurisprudence, because we're not based on Hammurabi's code. We're not based on some kind of crap coming out of the Quran. We're not based on any of that kind of stuff. We are based on so when we say a Judeo-Christian tradition, that's what we're talking about. And that's exactly, what our Constitution, springs from. So I might have to sit down with Calvin and explain this, but that's incredibly important.
Yeah, I tell you who I really do want you to sit down with and talk, and I don't know if you know of him or have spoken with him, but he would be a really good person for you to talk to, is David Starkey,
I'm a fan.
Who is a man of no faith and a gay man, but a really wonderful thinker. And I agree with that. He's making he's making actually quite a lot of, from being a very big national institution, his history TV shows, he's impeccably understood historian and qualified historian. He's now talking about why we're being undone by our own history. And I would love to hear you in conversation with him. I think that would be a fabulous thing to listen to.
I would love to do that. Of course, once upon a time I taught history of England, and I would assign my students, you can tell him this, his book on Elizabeth, which I think is just fabulous and all the more impressive given his worldview, meaning that the historian has to suppress his own prejudices and thoughtfully consider evidence and present it. And I thought, given his own worldview, I very much expected when I read that book, more than a decade ago, 15 years ago, whenever it was that it came out, I thought this guy is going to absolutely maul Elizabeth and the Reformation, because he won't understand it. He will see it all in utterly secular terms. I couldn't have been more wrong. I thought the way he presented Elizabeth was superb, precisely because he got the fact that she took her Protestant faith extremely seriously. So no, I have immense respect for his scholarship.
Well, he also, the apoliticality of him, which is the fact that he is one of those, again, I'm sort of trying to refer back to the Muslim, love the Muslim, don't love Islam thing. He is able, as an atheist, to be able to go, I'm not going to look at this through an empirical lens. So he tells you the story, and we miss all of this now, with our fake Jeff Bezos going into space flights and all of this mad stuff where judges in America they want people to try and overturn their rulings because they can go, look at me, I'm a leftist. And Starkey is one of the examples, and one of the last, he's an older man now, is one of the last examples of someone who goes, I put all of my bias, as much as I possibly can. I'm rigorous in putting my bias to the side in my criticism and my explanation of a period of history. And it's the same, I find, with one's closest people. You can say, I love you as a person. I think the belief structure that you'll follow is poison. But the problem is also, usually the people you argue that with are Muslims who drink, don't cover their faces, and whose relatives gamble, profiteer, and do all of that stuff. So you don't end up arguing the Islam with actually someone who believes in Islam. You end up arguing Islam with someone who, has an Islamic granddad or a Muslim granddad. And then they get upset and offended because you're saying Islam is poison, man. And they're like going, but it's my cultural heritage. And I'm like, no, it's not. Your cultural heritage is here in England with your family and doing whatever you want to do. It's insane the way that people are such lazy, shitty thinkers nowadays. I find it so annoying.
I agree with that. Let's change the subject to something everyone's eager to hear what we think about. How do you think Trump's doing?
I think he's doing really well. I
I do
think
too.
he's amazing.
I think he's doing awesome.
I think he's going
What
to
do you
be
think of
one of
this?
the. I think he's going to be. He's in line for being the one of the greats. 45 and 47 is going to be down as one of the greats. The guy is, you know what I really love about him more than anything. You never win if you take him on. No one wins. Like if you take him on, you try and attack him. The way he dealt with the Epstein stuff, and I see the Epstein conundrum. They sort of built it up, and Bongino built it up, and Pam Bondi built it up. I see why people would suddenly go, "Hang on, what are you hiding?" But the way he just goes, "We're achieving so much. We're doing so well, and then there's a flood in Texas, and it's the river rose by 30 meters, and why are you talking about this disgusting little pedophile?" And it's like, I love him. I love him. I love him. I love him. What do you think?
Well, and I agree with everything you just said. What do you think's going to happen, or what do you think about all this information that's now coming out about Obama and the fact that we have proof, documents indicating that the whole Russia collusion narrative was invented by Obama and Hillary Clinton, and they ordered it. Even though the intelligence community said there's zero evidence of any of this, they created a narrative and they said, run with it. And so what's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, Obama's face looks like he spent his life lying. So,
And having gay sex.
And having gay sex, maybe allegedly. Sorry, please don't sue me, Barack. Or Barry, whatever you used to call yourself. I don't. The thing about leftists is that they go, right, we're going to get rid of the filibuster, we're going to stack the Supreme Court, we're going to do this, we're going to get you off the ballot. They play the game, and then when we turn up, we just go, okay, so the game is so we can play by the same rules. They're like, no, racists, you can't. But the Obama stuff, everyone knows. We all knew. Everyone knew 2020 was stolen. Everybody knew this. We knew it, right? So Obama deserves what's coming to him. Will anything come to him? I doubt it. The idea that these people like Biden's doctors pleading the fifth, and their chief of staff, Jill Biden's person pleading the fifth, and you're just like, you are a bunch of lying little bastards. And thank God there's someone who's open and transparent in the White House who is actually going to do. Victor Davis, sorry to quote him, but I do love him. He's like, Trump is chemotherapy. He is relying on the fact that the poison is going to kill the cancerous cells before it kills the healthy ones. And that is, I think, a good analogy. Nowadays, I don't even believe in chemotherapy, but I think that Obama was probably I think he was probably picked out, because I know people. I went to school with people who were picked out, and the security services in the UK or politics would come and try and take people on board and join them into their things. I'm sure you have that in America too. I don't think he's going to suffer, Obama, as a result of this. But Trump has said he doesn't want revenge. He said he doesn't want revenge. So now we'll see whether he wants justice or not.
And I think that's the right way to frame it. This isn't should not be about revenge. It should be about justice. The law, I tweeted a couple of days ago, Obama saying, no one, especially the president of the United States, is above the law. That went kind of viral. And I thought I couldn't agree more. But he was saying it at a time where, of course, they were using all of the fake nonsense that they had created to impeach Trump. That's when he was saying that. And now, Barry, we've got the goods on you. Not stuff that was invented, not stuff that was created, fake documents. They're yours. You did it. You are exactly what we always knew you to be, an absolute piece of trash. And the guy must be prosecuted, or it makes a mockery of our Constitution, of our whole legal system. No one, as Barry himself said, can be above the law, especially the President of the United States.
I agree. I do think that they have to face it, as again a Victor quote. You have to face the consequences of your own ridiculous ideology, and if they have done if they have demeaned the U.S. Constitution in order to try and hold on to power illegitimately, and have used the organs of the state to try and destroy a sitting president, which they did between 2016 and 2020. It was 4 years of Trump's Russian collusion. He was weighing on prostitutes, whatever it was. It's about time that America was put back on the big steam engine was put back on the rails, because America is the only thing that is going to save the West. There is nothing left of Europe. Europe is finished. There is nothing left. And Trump is a very magnanimous guy when it comes to dealing with his friends in across the pond. But, I've been listening to a lot of stuff about how America got into World War II. I've been listening to a lot about how America got into Vietnam. I'm a history obsessed at the moment. And what I love about, we often bemoan modern technology, but, not Darryl Cooper, but if you listened, you can find AJP Taylor, David Starkey, anybody who will actually give you a history of the West, of what happened. And what we're finding in England, which is hilarious, because our Prime Minister accidentally almost quoted Enoch Powell, who is like the original racist in the UK, who gave the famous Rivers of Blood speech, is that we're finding now more and more people, even on the left, saying Enoch Powell was right about this. And they're doing it. On the left, they're doing it only to hold on to power. But in the middle and on the right, we're doing it to say the guy was right and you destroyed him. You destroyed this guy. So therefore, if you're going to destroy good ideas so that we have to wait 40, 50 years for those good ideas to resurface again, then Obama's bad ideas, corrupt bad ideas brought in through manipulation and using the three-letter agencies to destroy the American people, then he should stand trial too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was looking right now to see if I could find that little clip. But let me say, let's put it in right here. Let's put that little clip right here of Obama saying, excuse me, that no one, especially the president, is above the law.
They believe that no one, especially the president, is above the law.
So I think it's great that Obama has asked that he be arrested. Don't you?
I do. That's a great way to put it. And there are others on this list. What is often most outrageous is the insider trading. Figures like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, and figures whose net worth when they entered into government was relatively, normal. And then somehow they're worth, tens of millions of dollars. Elizabeth Warren, where does that money come from? Excuse me, Bernie Sanders. How is it possible that a communist, a socialist, somehow is worth all of this money when we know it's public what they make as members of our government? Well, of course, it's due to corruption. And those are the kinds of things that the American people are seeing. You have spoken of it there in a slightly different context, but you've spoken of it as a two-tier legal system. And that's what we're looking at here. And that absolutely, there we go. That absolutely has to stop. The law must apply to everyone legally. I find it incredible that here in this country, we have, you probably have it there, some British version of it. We have something called Venmo. You can, you can send people money electronically. If you send now, since, Biden was president, if you send $600, that has to be reported to the Biden administration. $600. So they're going to track that. And yet, as Doge pointed out, more than 4.7 trillion, not million, not billion, $4.7 trillion are completely unaccounted for. completely unaccounted for. USAID, which I've had quite a lot of involvement with that, $50 billion a year budget, and members of Congress, Democrats, of course, were arguing there should be no oversight for that money. But if I send $600, the IRS wants a record of that, and they're going to have oversight, regarding that. That's absolutely outrageous, and that is, to your hat, a two-tier legal system.
Well, we are living. I was talking to Calvin about the British Empire and how wonderful it was, and God bless you all who run her. But it was built out of a conservative mindset. We came into the Industrial Revolution, we were filled with prosperity, and we were filled, and instead of turning around and going, let's spunk it all everywhere, the British went, well, let's take this out to the world. And I've been also now reading about the American Civil War, and not Civil War, sorry, the American War of Independence, when you kicked us lot out, and why it happened, and all of this stuff. And it's very, very interesting to get a grasp. But throughout all of it, what you get a sense of is the fact that these were people who were trying to help, overwhelmingly. So in America, by getting rid of the Brits, they were trying to help. No taxation without representation, etc. I mean, there's a lot of skimmy about that, which is a long and boring conversation. But now we've got this situation in England where Keir Starmer has said, we need to have 16-year-olds voting because, they pay tax. So some relatively, commonsensical thinking people on the English far centrist extremist side of the argument have turned around and said, well, what about no representation without taxation? So if you're just going to suck the state's proverbial and you're a net taker rather than a net giver, why should you be represented and have the right to vote for anybody? Because of our welfare state, which is now employing 1 in 4 of the British population. It's insane. Britain is, I think Britain in the last week and a half, I think Britain is now pretty much at war. It's really, really, I mean, it's been brewing for a long, long time, but I think we're now at war with the organizations of the state. And most people, normal people, are now.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with that. And I saw your tweet of a few days ago or last week or whenever it was about, if anything, that needs to happen, the voting age needs to be raised, not lowered. I would actually be an advocate that you have to have skin in the game, meaning you have to be a viable, working, property owner in order to vote. That'll cause controversy with some people, but I'm very much a fan of that. Speaking of the American Revolution, one of your great historians, George Macaulay Trevelyan, a great historian, he says in his History of England, he says that the American Revolution, that's all the wrong terminology. So he wrote this, probably 60 years ago. But he says that's the wrong terminology. He says it's the Second English Civil War.
Yeah.
He says it's the Second English Civil War. And he says, and that's significant because revolutions, by definition, are sweeping away the old and bringing in the new. The French Revolution is properly called a revolution because it was generally atheistic and sought the annihilation of everything from the church to the monarchy to society, to rework the whole of it. It was the model for the Bolshevik Revolution. But, says Trevelyan, the American Revolution was no such thing. It was the Second English Civil War, and it was because as the great silver-tongued Irishman Edmund Burke, my hero, the father of modern conservative thought, he argued in Parliament, let him go. Let them go. And he said, and the reason is because they're a natural ally. They are not annihilating our traditions, not at all. They are tweaking those traditions. They're removing a monarch and they're putting in an elected official, but they're maintaining a bicameral system. Their legal system is predicated on English common law. That is who they are. They are a British people. They are an English people. They are us, and their cause is just. And I only go there with that because you talking about that you're studying the American Revolution is interesting, because the times in which we live, what's so fascinating about that era, it was a highly literate era. And you read the Federalist Papers, you read the founding fathers of this country, you read their correspondence, you read their thinking, and it has such profundity that is absolutely absent in our government now. There are figures like a J.D. Vance, who I think, he's an intellectual, and I think he could articulate it. But could AOC, could Ilhan Omar, could Nancy Pelosi, could Schumer, could Schiff? No, they don't understand any of that, and they don't care. And that's part of what is missing. And also because we're seeing the effort through guys like Obama. It's not civil war they want, it's revolution. At least the way I've just defined it. It's revolution. They want to annihilate everything in the past, and it's because they're arrogant. Revolutionaries are arrogant.
And they love death. And Starkey.
And they love death, yes.
What Starkey's point, which I thought was really good, and I love words that I don't know the meaning of. So he was saying that, the French Revolution was deductive. And French thinking is deductive, and British thinking, American thinking is inductive. But there deductive meaning that there's an abstract, which is the truth, as far as I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an intellectual, but you're deducing from an abstract to truth something, and inductive thinking is you know what the truth is, and then that you build your worldview around it. But what he made a really good point about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is that the American Constitution has a little droplet of deductive thinking in it, and from that little droplet of a great idea comes this idea of freedom of speech and the idea that you must be able to express yourself. And it turns out that in 2025, as the West literally wanks itself to death, that we are left with this one amazing idea, which is that one has the right to speak freely, and that just those broader things, without really digging too deeply into all of it, for me just goes, we are absolutely dead without America. And I am grateful. So you asked me whether I am grateful every single day for the fact that America exists, because if it didn't, we would be slaves, all of us, and we're almost slaves already.
Well, the difference in the brilliance of the American idea is the difference between positive law and negative law. The American Constitution, I was a student of the great constitutional historian, Forrest McDonald, a guy loathed by the left. The New York Times wrote a brilliant obituary for him when he died, and the headline said, a Forrest McDonald historian who punctured liberal notions, and he lived to do it. But if you in the course, when I was a grad student, in a class that he had handpicked the students, there were only, I think, 3 of us with him, and if you ever said the Constitution grants these rights, boom, he would come down on you like a hammer, and he would say the Constitution grants no rights. The Constitution acknowledges unalienable rights. That's what it does. The Constitution is acknowledging that these are rights that are given to you by God. Yeah. The moment you believe that your rights are given by government, you've lost, because now you've essentially allowed government to assume the role of God in your life. And that's significant, because with the American Declaration of Independence, they're not making a legal argument based on British law, because British law said that what they were doing was perfectly legal. They said, we appeal to God. We appeal to God that your laws are damnable, they are immoral, and we will not submit to them, because we are given, I see you smirking, because they are given to us.
I'm not smirking, I'm smiling. This is me smiling. I'm like going, I fucking wish people would say this in this country.
I
This
feel
is me
passionate,
smiling.
about that.
I'm smiling.
I feel passionate about it, and it's why you have the right to do what you do, where you stand up and say, I don't care what the law says that I can or can't say about Islam or rape gangs or, pedophilia or any of that crap, because my rights are granted to me by God himself, and you cannot separate me from them. And I have that right, not granted by you. The moment you tell me that they're given to me by you, I condemn that. That's absolute nonsense. You can only acknowledge what my rights actually are. Because as a human being, they come to me by God. They're absolute, they're timeless, they're universal.
It's so brilliantly explained. Cut out the fucking middleman. And the middleman really wants to get in and go, well, we give you the free speech rights. We give you them. It's like, no.
Completely false.
And also it teaches every American and everyone who truly wants to be an American, everyone who truly wants to be a Western, genuinely progressive, to like make the world more wonderful for their children, that covenant between parent and child. It teaches them one lesson: get out of my way, Mr. State Department, Mr. FBI, Mr. CIA, Mr. corrupted judicial system. Get out of my way. These rights are between me and him. Leave me alone. I love you. I've got to go now. It's
let me add this before you go. When I was in middle school and high school, Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. And one of the things that I learned, as a kid and eventually as a young man, that I came to love about Reagan, was Reagan essentially said this to the American people: I'm not here to give you anything. I am here to get government out of your way that you might flourish. Your success depends on your hard work, your own efforts, maybe even a little bit of luck. But my job is to get government out of your way and out of your life. And that is very consistent with what our Constitution, with what the framers of the Constitution, the founding fathers of this country envisioned, was that government would be small and it would be out of your life. What the left wants is for it to become the HOA from hell that determines every aspect of your life. To hell with that. And I mean literally to hell with that. That's a damnable worldview, and it's anti-human. Done.
But what's so good is that we're going to need to encourage people to know this. So every week we're going to remind people that they're free. And
I love that.
Their freedom is given to them by God, and we can talk about a million things. I don't know how we'll frame our new season. I mean, you and me can talk for hours without ever like needing structure. But I'd kind of like to I'm interested in there's a couple of bits I want to talk about that I'm reading about the American Revolution, non-revolution. But there's a couple of things. Maybe I'll start with a question for you next time. But I loved you, and I love to see you back.
Well, let me say this. This has been another episode of WTF in our new season 2 of WTF. Lawrence, great to see you, brother.
You too, brother. I love you.